you can boil water at a half a mile. Boil a gallon of water, that's you, Nino. I can tell you right there on the spot. And in the Wuhan district in China, we have thousands of videos. People just walking down the street, supposedly died of COVID, but 1 second they're walking okay, and then they start to get wobbly. Next thing they're on the ground wiggling. Why? Because they got hit with a microwave weapon that was broadcast from the 5G towers. And we know that before what happened in Wuhan and after, we're missing 25 million cell phone signals that we monitor. We know how many people got cell phones. And they're gone. They're not using them anymore. Well, where did the people who were using them go? Okay? That's what's going on here. You're looking at the use of directed energy weapons, highly precise weapons that can be turned on Americans. There is no excuse for not having the congressional investigation. Zero. Let the citizens that live here come testify before Congress about what they've seen. Bring the samples of what they've worked with. Let the experts come in and testify. And then if Congress wants to play a game, let them have their Doviat experts come in and tell us this is the directed energy weapon here. That all of the military and people that came in here to stop us from looking at this, what fire in America have you ever seen where they went to such extremes to block the people from coming in and looking at it? Why? Because there's evidence of directed energy weapons having been used here. So let's stop the baby talk. Let's stop the dumbass talk. Let's have an honest conversation and force those that are supposed to represent it to prove it by having honest investigation. And if they won't do honest investigation, if they pick a lane to try and further obfuscate and lie to us and piss on us and tell us it's raining, then we take them out. We vote them out. We have a recall election, whatever we have to. If Nino, the alternative, you can't go there.
Vote them out. We tried doing that twice in a row.
If we're not going to be able to get the people that are supposed to represent us.
So, Nino, you got to understand, Nino's a fighter.
They're not. Okay, spoiler alert, they're not doing their job.
He's a boxer.
Okay, they're not. I don't know what to say, Juan,
he always
not.
wants to fight.
And you want us to vote them out? Didn't we try that? Didn't we try to vote them out in 2020 and in 2022?
You're not going to do it. You're not going to do it with frickin' machines.
So you have to consider Nino.
Okay,
have to consider the source.
I mean, I'm just stating the obvious.
Just like Cliff High, you have to consider the source. He admits he's a paranoid schizophrenic. So you can't prove it to him. He doesn't believe it.
I understand.
Okay, so then
But he will
what's the
listen to
alternative?
reason.
What's the alternative?
Oh, he's a very brilliant guy.
You tell me what the alternative is. You really want to go there?
One for you.
Well, if the military can control it.
One for Joe.
Okay.
And if it's not
One
the
for
military,
Ben.
Okay.
Energy weapons.
And these
So
go
I
to.
can't eat the other ones.
I know how you are. So I brought you one to eat now, but one you can't eat till you get there.
Okay, whatever.
Because I know how you less.
we'll have to continue the
Whatever.
conversation.
All right.
You know?
So there's
I'm
four
gonna
of them.
trust
Okay.
One for you here, and then
that
one for you when you get there.
even
That's fine.
people
One for Joe
that may
and one
not
for
otherwise
Dan.
have understood
Okay.
the positions of authority, there's enough of them still left
Caribbean rum
that we
cake.
have with prayer. Because if we don't have that,
That sounds pretty
we
good.
don't have enough guys that
delicious.
understand
It's
their
like off the
graphics, their
chain, as
sisters,
they
their
say.
wife, their kids. They're being threatened by this cult.
They make them fresh up in
Then,
upstate
you
New
know,
York,
I
and
will
they
bend
came
over and
yesterday
kiss
to
your
the
ass
block party
I
and
still think
sell.
we got a shot
Oh, is
at
that
it.
right?
Got a
Yeah,
shot
and
at
they
it
come here and rent the
without
house
doing
with their
civil
whole
war
church, 50 to 60 people.
in America.
Wow.
So that's what they
And if
do
I'm
to
wrong,
earn money
Dino,
to
you're
raise
right.
funds for their
I'm not
K
saying I'm
through
right, I'm
12
just
school.
saying
The
They
payers,
sell
payer
rum
prayers
cake.
were done.
So they
I'm not
rent that
saying-
house
I'm
next
not
door?
saying I'm right. I'm
Yeah.
just saying I'm just telling you what the audience feels.
They come in
Everyone's frustrated,
August.
pissed
I
off.
understand they feel like, you know, I understand.
Wow,
it.
really?
But that kind of a conversation won't
Yeah.
fix it.
Yeah.
That kind of a conversation means that the infrastructure of America is so destroyed that everybody should just go hide somewhere and stop and not try. We're Americans. If people people claim to be representing.
I like one.
We take them out of office.
He's brilliant.
We put somebody to actually represent us.
He's got contacts. I don't know who he is, but he's got contacts in the government for sure. Generals and shit like that.
We got a lot of these members of Congress in play is through fraudulent elections.
And meanwhile, as they steal our elections, they hit us with direct energy weapons. They knock down bridges. They have an open border where millions upon millions of criminals are coming in. And you're telling me we need to go vote them out? Come on, man.
Okay, but you are not
listening.
Right over key point what I said. I hope everybody
I'm just trying to understand.
But I'm trying to help you.
Makes
If
no
I just
sense.
say that you're never going to get a free election, you're never going to get the election solved, then we better just arm up and go to war, town to town, city to city. And by the way, Nino, you can have the best militia in Texas. And you know what? With every gun and all the 50 calibers and fully automatic and explosives and vehicles to block the entrance to town and everybody's food supply buried under the house, you know what? You couldn't stop 1 second of a laser microwave weapon attack using what was used on Paradise Valley.
Number one, we got to get control of the elections.
If like the Indians trying to fight
It's
back,
a peaceable way to win.
using polio, and you don't even know where it's coming from or how it's
Directed energy weapons they've had them for generations anyway.
They have.
They've just now been saying, okay, we're going to show you this much of what we can do.
And we need to stop this stupid use of machines that are easily frauded. That's what's going to come out more and more every day. Stop the stupid, dumbass early vote, bank the vote stuff. What kind of dumbass idiots who do not want to talk
You're
about
preaching to the choir. My whole audience knows this. We all know this.
And
but it's like, okay, so then what?
So what's the answer?
Going to
You got 15 on already?
the way the votes are
You have 15
conducted,
listening
county
already?
by county. The
Looks
federal
that way.
government doesn't direct
That's
how the
cool.
vote's done. County by county, everybody's got to show up, or you're behind. Bro, I'm going into an area where I'm gonna lose you.
I actually know exactly where you're at. I'm good at that. All right, Juanito, thank you for joining, man. I'll talk to you later, all right?
All right.
Bye, man. So, Jim Willie giving us another big financial report. Lots of stuff happening. I believe this.
Right into it. We have 30 minute
This one
segments.
is
I
good.
usually chew up about
You'll
5
like
minutes
this one.
of it. In the
This
beginning
one's
and the end.
short.
So that gives you about 25 minutes or so. Let's go.
Are they
With the
listening
endless
to
attacks
this?
Huh?
on
Are they
President Trump
listening to this?
and the rapidly eroding freedoms
Well, there's. Oh, it looks like somebody showed up.
from the present regime
See?
in this
There's
post-constitutional
17 people
government,
listening.
we are now seemingly trapped in. Many people across America believe we are
Oh,
losing
watch this, Nelson.
That's the thing here. We are losing this battle.
I
So the
wanted to
question
show
is very
this.
simple.
They're not
Are
going to see
things
it online.
just being revealed and we're noticing these things for the first time as the people are waking up to the truths? So the question is, are things getting worse or being revealed?
This guy, this is brilliant. 107 is very. He's a really good guy. Okay, a lot of times he'll say a prayer for everybody at the very end.
Yeah, he is a good guy.
Yeah, he is. And but anyways, this I wanted to show you this, Nelson. I don't know if you've seen this before. This is a picture of a mini nuke going off in Beirut in 2020, and
It was set off by whom?
it was.
Did we
They
do it?
called it at the time. They said it was a fertilizer bomb,
Did we do it?
but it came out. I don't know. But it came out later that it was actually a mini nuke. Whoops.
Goes to show, however, that none of these indictments have a lot of teeth to them if they need to keep rolling out the next one. If any one of these cards was actually an ace, I don't think they'd play the rest of their hand so quickly as we see them doing.
Yeah, well, I think they're being exposed every day, so that's kind of the good news. Suzanne, thank you very much for reporting. I'll see you tomorrow on DEF CON 5. Let's play video 3. Everyone saw this in 2020, the Beirut, was it rods from God? Explosion of the warehouse that had all this ammonium nitrate. Let's take a look at this video.
See, they're saying it's a fertilizer
I
bomb.
remember it.
Now watch
I
this.
remember them saying it was
This
a
is the important.
fertilizer
The
where
important.
they stored what fertilizer.
But it came out later. This was actually a mini nuke, and we all need to know what something like this looks like, because if you ever see that shit going down, get the fuck under cover as quickly as possible. Don't be fucking letting any grass grow under your feet. This is, you watch how fast that shockwave goes.
Then we'll bring on 107. Video.
This is like 2 miles, 2-3 miles away. Look at that. That guy, he did exactly the right thing. He got underwater. That was the perfect thing to do.
Went right over them.
That's right. And
Wow. That's
Yeah.
it?
yeah, that's it. Yeah,
That was
basically.
enough. I'd show it again. Now that I know what I'm watching, like the second time around, I'll be able to.
The votes that are counted are accurate and are valid votes, and we have lost election after election because we haven't done that. So, it just goes to show, however, that none of these indictments have a lot of teeth to them if they need to keep rolling out the next one. If any one of these cards was actually an ace, I don't think they'd play the rest of their hand so quickly as we see them doing.
Yeah, well, I think they're being exposed every day, so that's kind of the good news. Suzanne, thank you very much for reporting. I'll see you tomorrow on DEF CON 5. Let's play video 3. Everyone saw this in 2020, the Beirut, was it rods from?
Okay, now he's talking about rods from God. You know what rods from God is? Rods from God is a tungsten rod. They put them up in orbit. And so there's basically a satellite in orbit, and all they do is they let this tungsten rod. Tungsten's very heavy. It's kind of like lead. Very heavy, very hard. And so then by the time, and it just falls. And it's, probably about that big around, maybe 10 feet long, something like that. When it hits the earth, it's like a nuke. Okay, when it hits the earth, it just fucking destroys everything. And it's like a nuke. Anyways, but so that's what rods from God is. It what it does is it just, the whole earth is just it'll go, but it'll cause a big huge shock wave, and they're very heavy. They hit the earth at like I don't know, maybe 20,000 miles an hour.
I thought at some point something catch it. I thought that if you drop something from the Empire State Building, it gets to a certain speed and then it won't go any faster.
Right. But that's because of air resistance. Okay. And these rods from God,
The way they're designed, they pierce the air and they don't.
they're small. So and they're very heavy. And then when they hit the earth, it just causes a shock wave. And like there was one, there was a plant, there was an explosion in China that I saw a video of like a few years ago that I think might have been rods from God. And it basically, this whole plant, it was like for probably a couple miles around, everything was just leveled. And there was nothing left. It was like, it turns into it basically creates a giant shockwave. Is what it does. And the whole earth everything's just thrown up and
So it's really
Nothing left.
It's really the Earth all vibrating against each other that causes it to.
Right.
It's not the air. It's the.
No, it's not the air. It's the impact when that
impact.
rod is heavy, hits the earth, and causes the shock wave that. And
it's like fracking.
Yeah, right. It's
in a sense.
And they go deep, and it just causes the earth causes the shock wave.
How far?
I don't know how deep they go, but I know that they go. I
mean, a couple 100 feet.
I imagine. I don't know. I would imagine they probably do. Matter of fact, you could use those against like probably dumbs and stuff like that. Probably. I don't know. But it's called rods from God, and I've seen, like, I remember seeing an article in Popular Science about it, and about these. There's a tungsten rod that's about this big around and about 10 feet long, and they shoot them from a satellite in space, and it's just gravity that fucking brings those suckers in, and when it hits the Earth, you don't want to be around there. Let me tell you.
Right. I mean, they could blow us away at any time.
Yeah.
Interesting.
God. Explosion of the warehouse that had all this ammonium nitrate. Let's take a look at this video, then we'll bring on 107. Video 3.
Look at See, he did exactly the right thing by diving into the water because then you won't, like, when that shockwave hits you, it'll probably break your eardrums. But if he's in the water, don't even notice anything. It just goes right on past you, and then you come up and you saw that mushroom cloud. Coming off of that thing. That was a mini nuke. That was just a little one. Anyways, okay, well, let's keep playing this 107 because somebody online has asked for it. And what I ought to probably do, is
John.
I can.
We're recording this.
I can splice that out of there and make that just one video, and then I could show it at one of these events.
Very aware of some of the timing.
But when it's, I have no control on that software to, like the video here is an hour-long video.
Numerous drops.
Anyways.
Concerning the exact name and location of people that were involved in stealing the vote in 2020.
I can't show the video today because
it's actually been put out there now, and you've seen it.
Software doesn't allow it. I need to splice it. I need to cut it out
in the days
and get it ready to show, and then I could, yeah, for sure.
2020 election, November 3rd of 2020. Of all places on planet Earth, he's geolocated, and it's in the Hunter Biden laptop data. He's located on planet Earth, of all places, 1 mile, actually a little less, from the Dominion headquarters, who run the Dominion vote machine, where the software was written in most of those machines for the U.S. election. He's 1 mile from there, not in America, but in Serbia. And the data that was released from Stephanie Lambert's investigation into the Dominion stuff that's part of these lawsuits, not one, but multiple now, where the data is being referenced from her discovery process inside of Dominion on behalf of Lindell and Pat Byrne, and it's going to be used in other cases. It shows that Hunter Biden was less than a mile from Dominion's headquarters. What were the Dominion people doing? Their emails, their texts show criminal activity. The sheriff in Michigan, Dar Lee, began an investigation. When that material was turned over to him by Stephanie Lambert, and the investigation showed that these people involved in criminal activity. He's written a letter to Jim Jordan over in Congress requesting that Congress, January 6th committee, the Judicial Oversight Committees, review that material concerning the manipulation of the 2020 election so that we can pursue prosecution of these criminal activities, that Congress needs to step in and do something about this because you have evidence, not talk, not banter, not the stink of manipulation. Remember what was going on in the court cases over the last couple of years. All these cases trying to get to the election fraud 2020. As the experts came in, they testified about what they were seeing in the data, which was indicative of computer algorithms being used that could not be normal human voting converted to digital lodged in the machine because the patterns did not show the randomness of artificial entries, information pulled out of the election system. It was indicative of computer generated algorithms working towards a particular end, modified data, artificial data, okay? And yet in the courts were using words like speculative. While it was suggestive, that's not evidence. So it'd be like, well, I didn't see the guy. We didn't know where he was between the hours of such and so, and that's right when somebody was murdered or the bank was robbed.
Circumstantial
and so,
evidence.
We can't say specifically where he was. It must have been him that robbed it. The court is actually correctly saying in many of these cases, while you have the stink of it, while you have the suggestion, the possibility, you do not have the evidence of the crime. So it's speculative, but it's not with any tangible basis. Now what you have emerging into the world, we have the actual people who worked the problem, who did the election theft, saying, I did it, here's how I did it, here's our communications between some of the members that I was associated with who contributed and assisted in doing this, here's the time frame, and you have something else, such as with the computer data, the Dominion data out of Tina Peters' computer in Colorado. We have the ability to go back and look at the actual machine data that was recorded prior to and after the election and to compare what the people said was done with what's actually in the computers. And that comparative analysis verifies that what they said is true. It'd be like in the case of a guy that comes and says, I committed a murder. Okay, so where's the body? I threw it in the ocean. Well, where's the weapon? I threw it in the ocean also. Well, how are you going to prove that they did it? There might be a crazy person that should be in an institution. You have people that want to, fame or whatever to come in and confess to, crimes all the time, but they didn't really do it. They just want the attention. So in this case, well, we had people saying that they were involved in the vote fraud and in the manipulation. We didn't have the tangible data. Once we got, for example, Tina Peters' computer, we had something to go back and compare what they said happened, the way that files were hidden, and see if that fact was the same. It'd be like Patrick Byrne likes to use the comparison of the Enigma machine. till you actually got a machine, and then we created a computer to analyze the data and to tie it all together. We couldn't sew it all up and actually have the full picture. We now have the data, the people who said how they did it, what they did, and we have the corpus delicti, the body of the evidence, even from within the machines. And we have people saying, look, I was in Serbia, I did it, here's the programs we used, here's who we communicated with in the United States, here's who we communicated with over at Dominion. This is what we did. You have the murderer, you have the body of the evidence, the corpus delicti, and you have the methodology and the communications corroborating what they said and corroborating the crime scene evidence. So you really have a much more complete picture now that the public is confronted with those realities. You're the jury. The people of the United States and the world now have the evidence and will continue to have more of that, by the way, during every week, every month in the remainder of the year. But there will be there really is already adequate information at this moment, time of this broadcast, to come to a conclusion. Look, Hunter Biden, geolocated with his computer within a mile of Dominion's software writing location in Serbia at the exact timing of the election. You think that's a coincidence of all the places? Why is he with the hookers in China or Mexico or San Diego or San Francisco? He's there because he's there on a mission. And the American people of the world are going to have to take a leg. You're the jury. How are we going to fix this? Like Tim Clement said, there's a moment coming for America and the world when you will have to say, we have two presidents, one is fraudulent, one legitimate. Pick a lane. And the consequence of a good pick or a bad pick, you got to live with the bed you made. You got to live with these people in power, with what they're capable of doing. Do you want personal responsibility of what they're capable of on the verge of nuclear war in Central Europe? Doing atrocities like was done in Moscow, which was done by Western groups under the moniker of ISIS, okay? Actually, a proxy war fought through proxy agent provocateurs to bring the West and the world into some kind of a conflict where we wipe each other out, so these globalistas that are actually the ones pulling the strings can take control of the world in the vacuum of power that would come from a worldwide World War IV, which is what they desire. That's the moment we're in.
Well, fascinating, and we can see, folks, sometimes we get the truth a little bit later from the events when they're taking place, and that's kind of what I want to chat. I took a few notes here. I want to ask you a few things. We see, on daily news, the mainstream news world, the Google-controlled mechanisms online and so forth, the social media platforms. What we're seeing is, instead of the confiscation of Trump Tower in New York, we've got P. Diddy's two homes are being looked at and raising the issue of sex trafficking at the same exact time. We have the endless attacks against Donald Trump, right now, of course, ongoing, the state of New York. And we have a little win here along the way with the bond being brought down to something else. The attacks are endless, and they're not going to stop until they are removed. And I see things getting better. People then say, well, how are things getting better when people are dying and now they want the new form of a jab to come out and so forth and so on? I have a very simple answer. Until the audience grasps this, and I know our audience does, but you can share this show with those that you're bringing aboard right now, because we love our brothers and sisters and we want to help them, this is our war. We are at war, perhaps one of the worst wars of all wars. All wars have casualties in them. These are the casualties of our war. The aftermath of the genocide jab, and so forth and so on, and all the things I've just mentioned, and the carnage that comes in the kinetic war that you heard about in last week's episode with Juan. That's a lot there, Juan. We've got about 5 minutes left. If you want to take us out of this broadcast, summarizing things for our viewers, are things getting worse, or are things just being revealed?
You know, this is the bizarre way of putting it, I suppose, but you know, when I was a kid, you get a swelling on the face or something where you had a pimple that wanted to come out.
Right. You got to wait till it
And one of the
ripens.
things I was taught that helped is put a hot compress on it. Or if I'm out in the sunshine or I'm on the beach and like that, I get a lot of sun on it. And what it does is it helps to bring the pimple to a head, okay? And it brings it to the surface. And if you try to pop it early, you end up just with a big, horrible red spot, and it makes the whole thing worse. If you let it alone and let the poison, the toxins, concentrate and come to the surface, the immune system itself is working against it to bring it to the surface. And then at some point, you can lance it, pop it, do whatever, and it will get the poisons out, let the healing begin, and scab over and get it sorted out. But the heat, the sunlight, the help to bring it to a head. In legal terms, we talk about a case ripening to the point where a judge can actually make a decision, where it can go to trial, and the jury can actually look at all the issues. You've got to bring the information. There's got to be full disclosure. There's got to be, Brady. The other side has to know what you have and how you got it, and bring it to the surface. In all of the events related to election 2020, it's taken time in the legal arena for all of that to begin to ripen, and all of the attacks on Trump to solidify and come together. Look at the latest thing that by now your audience has heard about as I speak this moment, aren't actually out in the public. We have information about Stormy Daniels and her attorney Avenatti, who colluded to set Trump up years before 2016. And we have people who were aware of this even prior to this happening, and since, who've made the allegation, which will still have to be vetted out, but didn't come out during the initial trial, showing that Trump wasn't guilty. They tried to set him up and make the appearance of certain things happening that had no basis in truth. There was a killer that was out years ago that was involved in some violent-based murders and other stuff, allegedly. And his big thing was to set people up for a crime, plant DNA evidence, hair, blood, other things, people that he knew. And then he would be an innocent person in the background who would set them up and then literally enjoy going to watch them going through the trial process and be convicted. That's how twisted this person was. And an associate of mine up in Montana revealed and broke through on those cases and did some amazing investigative work to show that this was happening and who the person was that did this for decades and decades as his own form of satanic worship. We are in a situation today where now the truth is coming out. It's becoming more and more apparent. The collusion, the interactions of the people involved in trying to set not just America up, I should say not just Trump up, but America and the world to get their own little designs done. These were acts of war committed against individuals, the Trump family, if you will. Remember that members of the Trump family, there was active attempts to set them up to make it look like they were involved in criminality. And had they not been savvy enough to be waved off and not get involved in some of those business deals, etc., they could have been sucked in, and it would have had the appearance that they were involved in shady dealings, but they avoided it, fortunately. We've been set up as a country to attack each other and to take America off the rails into civil war. And the American people are now getting enough information, and enough time was bought in this intervening period to allow the situation to ripen, and now you're getting the rest of the information. The saboteurs, the provocateurs, the way that they were working together and coordinating their actions from a half a world away, not just in Serbia, not just in Venezuela or Italy or Germany or France, but multiple locations to try to, via acts of war, bring America to civil war, to destroy each other and the American dream, so that these monsters could move into the vacuum of power and take over the world. It didn't work. We're seeing that now. We're understanding that better. And now is the moment when true Americans will come together, fight these monsters, pop these pimples on somebody's ass, and be done with it and get on with life. And it will be difficult. It will be grinding. But we will prevail by God's grace and take back our country, take back the world. And those people that were prophesying the demise of the MAGA movement, make America great again, will be shown to be assholes and idiots. Their beliefs, their hopes are asinine. America's coming back. You can bank on it. I'm betting on it. I'm all in. I believe your audience is too. Keep the faith. Don't despair. A better day is coming.
Amen. And I want to comment here. You just stated a few moments ago, and it was so well put in the examples and analogy you were making, that we've been set up. The American people have been set up over a long period of time, ramped up heavily with the advent of all this technology. We've been set up to attack each other and let ourselves bring each other down, and then they come in for the close. So the three words that come to my mind listening to 107 just a moment ago is unite in truth. Get to the truth. Here are some pointers where you will find some truth in terms of listening to resources and broadcasts. Of course, follow 107. You have the X22 report. While I don't agree with everything, all the names I'm about to roll off, these are good patriots that are doing good work. You've got to get to the truth and then do your own homework. Don't take my word for it or anybody else's. We're doing the best we can to point you in the direction of truth so we can unite in truth and not let them come in for the close. As Juan just stated, we will win this battle. Of course, we are on God's side. You have the X22 report. You have Nino Rodriguez. You've got Scott McKay, Michael Jacob, perhaps at Patriot.tv, formerly, recently merged and acquired my company, American Media Periscope. You got Mike Lindell's platform. You've got great journalists like Alex Newman, good friend of mine, Laura Logan. Go find the truth. It's right before you now. And a lot of people are putting their lives on the line to get it out there for you. And one of those people is 107. I want to thank you, Juan. We got about 60 seconds. If you just want to close us out one more time, I appreciate it.
The one thing that we're all going to have to focus on, we cannot go along with this fallacy of being able to protect the vote through the electronic voting system. The concept of banking the vote, voting
Listen to
early,
this.
and making that work is also asinine. It will become clearer and clearer that doing this through the existing electronic vote system is impossible. You can't fix the machines.
They're already fixed.
They're already fixed. We must hit that whole system for the coming election. When it finally does happen, it will have to be a paper ballot one day, with the votes counted where
They
they're
ain't
cast.
doing it in New Jersey
No
unless they're
transporting
ordered
the
by
back of a
the.
police
Because the
car
ones that are running
or a
everything
tank.
aren't going to want to change it.
We're going to get to an honest vote. We're going to get the people that we truly
26
want
people.
and that we have asked to represent us into office, come hell or high water. And until we do, we're not settling for this bullshit that's been foisted upon us by these monsters stealing America one vote at a time.
He nails it right
Thank
here.
You bet. And thank you, Juan. I'm so glad you
Even
raised that.
they got away
It
with
was
it.
only
so
taking a
far,
note.
you know?
Yeah,
They
there's
got away
actually
with it.
something called paper and pen. I'm using that at the moment because
Yeah, I really like 107. He nailed it right there. We can't fix those voting machines. They're already fixed. Someone said on the chat there that the rods of gods are the size of a telephone pole. You know, I don't remember them being that big. I remember reading some articles about it, but, you know, I don't know. Telephone poles like about a foot across, you know. So, anyways, so what we're going to talk about today is the Great Reset, which is what they were talking about with 107 here a minute ago, about these, what did he call them? He called them monsters. And that's what they are. They're monsters.
We need the monster now.
The World Economic Forum. Klaus Schwab is the founder and chairman of the World Economic Forum. Probably one of the biggest monsters.
There's a rumor he was taken out.
You know, if it came from Real Raw News, that's I ignore that one because they do nothing. It's just nothing but clickbait. I think it's a bunch of crap. Anyways, I think Cliff High's right. I think that when they start having the war crimes trials, there might be some of them happening. 107 said he knows people that are on war crimes tribunals right now, but he said they were just investigating. He said that there's nobody being put on trial yet. They're investigating. I've read articles about some defense contractors being indicted, but it's in the regular courts and for fraud, not necessarily defense contractors, government contractors being indicted for fraud. And but there's I don't believe there's any war crimes trials going on yet. That's not to say they won't happen. 107 says they're coming, and I agree. But it's going to be public. Everybody's going to see it, just like the war crimes trials that happened after World War II. Anyways, he wrote the book called The Great Reset. At least 4 billion useless eaters shall be eliminated by the year 2050 by means of limited wars, organized epidemics of fatal rapid-acting diseases, and starvation. Energy, food, and water shall be kept at subsistence levels for the non-elite, starting with the white population of Western Europe and North America, and then spreading to other races. The population in Canada, Western Europe, and the United States will be decimated more rapidly than on other continents, and the world's population reaches a manageable level of 1 billion, of which 500 million will consist of Chinese and Japanese races, selected because they're people who have been regimented for centuries and who are accustomed to obeying authority without question. These are the monsters. From the time there shall be artificially contrived food and water shortages and medical care to remind the masses that their very existence depends on the goodwill of the Committee of 300. That's an excerpt from his book, COVID-19, The Great Reset. The pandemic presents a rare but narrow window of opportunity to reflect, re-examine, and reset our world. These are the monsters, and that's what 107 was talking about here. Humans are now hackable animals. The whole idea that humans have this soul or spirit and nobody knows what's happening inside them and they have free will, that's over. DNA COVID-19 vaccine should give us extreme control over population worldwide. And that's Bill Gates. COVID-19 outbreak is the first big step towards unprecedented control over mankind. And that's Klaus Schwab. Klaus Schwab, The Great Reset. A big thank you to our employees of the year 2021. To our employees. And notice that's Justin Trudeau. That's Merkel, Angela Merkel. Oh, this is Johnson, Boris Johnson. Macron is right here. Joseph Biden. A big thank you to our employees. Mm-hmm. What we're very proud of now is the young generation like Prime Minister Trudeau and President of Argentina and so on. We penetrate the cabinets. So yesterday I was at the reception of Prime Minister Trudeau, and I know that half or even more of this cabinet was actually our young global leaders of the World Economic Forum. What they are proud of is that we penetrate the global cabinets of countries with our World Economic Forum young global leaders. The Great Reset. Your theory about the cabal trying to kill off humanity is stupid. You act like it's written in stone or something. Actually, that's been destroyed, so we're getting them. We're getting them. We're winning, I think. It ain't over. Corona is the field around high voltage electricity. It is the breach of the corona field that is the basis of lighting. Corona discharge is an electrical discharge brought on by the ionization of the fluid, such as air surrounding a conductor that is electricity charged. In the air, coronas generate gases such as ozone, nitric oxide, and in turn nitrogen dioxide, and thus nitric acid if water vapor is present. Nitric acid's poisonous. These gases are corrosive and can degrade and embrittle nearby materials and are also toxic to humans and the environment. Corona is the EMF field that is generated close to high voltage power transmission. Corona severely damages the reproductive cells in the liver. Corona causes sterility, miscarriages, and infertility. Corona radiation kills most high voltage electricians by the time they're 55 years old. That's interesting, eh? Yep. They have labeled these symptoms to be caused by viral attack called coronavirus. That's the first I heard of that. Flu cases plummet during pandemic. 2021, 1,822 flu season. 2019 to 2020, 38 million. So isn't that convenient, eh? And they had all these. Anyway, so we'll see if YouTube keeps this video up, eh? So, disclaimers. I'm not a liar. Well, I'm in a lawyer. No, I'm in a liar. You should never take my word for anything. You should always do your own research. I provided references to aid you in your research, but I don't know everything. I'm open to any ideas. There's 4 types of people you'll meet in your life. There's the people who try to wake up the slaves. There's the slave masters. There's the people who have no idea they're slaves. And there's the people who like being slaves. Which one are you? Do you really know for sure? Are you who you think you are? It's the matrix is real. If you can see through the illusion, then you are the solution. If the people do not know their basic rights and freedoms, how can they know when or if their rights and freedoms are being infringed? Never forget the men who started this country were marijuana growing, whiskey drinking, tax evading rebels who left their beds at night to shoot at the cops. And that's exactly what happened. That was the militias. The militias really started the War of Independence. If you understand, what was going on then. All tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent. I don't trust the government. I don't trust the medical, pharmaceutical, industrial complex. I don't trust the military industrial complex. I don't trust the mainstream media. I don't trust the bankster criminal cabal that owns the government, owns the medical, pharmaceutical, industrial complex, owns the military industrial complex, and owns the mainstream media. If you call me a conspiracy theorist, I don't trust you. Okay. Government's not reason, it's not eloquence, it is force. Like fire, it's a dangerous servant and a fearful master. The greatest danger to American freedom is a government that ignores the Constitution, and I'll tell you, that's why we got to get control of the elections. Eliminate the soul with medicine. The organized earth, more than 100 years ago, Rudolf Steiner wrote the following. In the future, we will eliminate the soul with medicine under the patent of a healthy point of view. Under the pretext of a healthy point of view, there will be a vaccine by which the human body will be treated as soon as possible directly at birth, so that the human being cannot develop the thought of the existence of soul and spirit. To materialistic doctors will be entrusted with task of removing the soul of humanity, as today people are vaccinated against this disease or that disease. So in the future, children will be vaccinated with a substance that can be produced precisely in such a way that people, thanks to this vaccination, will be immune to being subjected to the madness of spiritual life. Isn't that interesting? I guess that's why they're trying to do the forced vaccinations. I mean, at birth, they vaccinate. How many kids? How much do they, and their autism? He would be extremely smart, but he would not develop a conscience. And that is the true goal of some materialistic circles. With such a vaccine, you can easily make the etheric body loose in the physical body, Once the etheric body is detached, the relationship between the universe and the etheric body would become extremely unstable, and man would become an automaton, for the physical body of man must be polished on this earth by spiritual will. So the vaccine becomes a kind of enigmatic force. I can't read that too well. Man can no longer get rid of given materialistic feeling. He becomes materialistic of constitution and can no longer rise to the spiritual. And that's Rudolf Steiner, 1861 to 1925. That's, I guess, when he lived. So we're going to talk about a targeted individual. And this is taken from a website called targetedjustice.com. And so let's kind of zoom in on this chart a little bit more. So you have Stanford, targeted individual. You have Stanford, nominates farm by FBI, CIA, DHS, or government agency. So then here's your government agency watch list. DHS, FBI, Fusion Center. Sure you've heard of the Fusion Centers. Gang of hiring, house break-ins, chemical attacks, poisoning, family relatives destroyed, family relations destroyed, isolation. This is all coming from the NSA, hacks phones and electronics. CIA Denver provides funding and PSYOPs. And this is Shriver Air Force Base, U.S. Air Force. So you have the Council on Foreign Relations is controlling this Central Intelligence Agency, Lockheed GPS tracking satellite, Vericator attacks, cell tower attacks, digital, some of this stuff is hard to read, block legal help, block medical help, and so this is taken from targetedjustice.com. And this is the other part of this. And I guess that's it. Yeah. So targeted individuals, beta testing for all humanity control. A targeted individual is someone who has been selected by deep state, usually FBI, DHS, or CIA, to unwillingly participate in an experimental CIA torture program. This program was developed under the CIA's MK Ultra project and is designed to break down the individual and neutralize the person using psychological, physical, and emotional stress. The ultimate goal of this program is to control the entire population through intimidation, fear, and threats. Political activists, labor union leaders, scientists, and whistleblowers are some of the main targets of the program. However, some people are randomly chosen. Family and spousal relationships are usually destroyed as part of the psychological torture. I don't know. Have you been exposed to any of that? I know I have.
Yep.
The FBI and DHS fusion centers run the global gang stalking program, which is designed to harass, intimidate, and break down the target. The FBI outsources much of the local harassment to community groups such as InfraGuard, Citizen Corp, and Neighborhood Watch. Targeted individuals are placed on terrorist watch lists and tracked as non-investigative subjects so that local police and ambulances can be instructed not to assist with their emergency calls through FirstNet.com, which is run by AT&T. And I can tell you that that I've been subjected to some of this stuff. I'm actually I got it's from the Texas Department of Public Safety saying that I'm a threat. and they canceled my airframe and power plant license. You know, so they want to deny my. Matter of fact, I've got lawsuits in the courts. You know, and so what I'm thinking about doing, actually, I was talking to Nelson. I was thinking about bringing an original action with the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court deals with ambassadors and consuls, and the U.S. consulate in Calgary sold me into slavery, conspired with foreign enemies to sell me into slavery, and so I think that that's grounds to. So I was going to bring an action, direct action, original action to the Supreme Court, directly to the U.S. Supreme Court. Anyways, so let's keep moving. Let's see if there's any comments here first. Yeah, I would never have anything to do with the birth certificate. That's all a fraud. Okay, so we'll keep moving here. At the FBI, targeting officers and targeting coordinators identify and nominate new people to the suspected terrorist list, whose only crime is being a whistleblower or political activist. According to the Office of the Inspector General, 97% of these people have no known ties to terrorism, yet they're placed on this secret list. The FBI managers are paid bonuses up to $50,000 each year to add people to the list. Recently, the FBI started claiming that Christian Catholics are domestic terrorists, and so are parents that object to child pornography in their schools. Okay, so this is what's going on. Targeted individuals, beta testing. Targeted individuals, gang stalking. Predatory gang stalking is stalking performed by a group and describes a series of techniques utilized by organized crime and corrupt networks to instill mental instability in a victim, with the intent to discredit, sabotage, harass, extort, and even drive a victim to suicide. One of the most chilling aspects of gang stalking is the invasive surveillance victims experience. Gang stalkers use various means to monitor their targets, including physical surveillance. Gang stalkers may follow the victim, tracking their movements and daily routines. They may employ multiple people to maintain constant surveillance, making the victim feel constantly watched. Electronic surveillance, modern technology, making the use for gang stalkers to monitor their victims. They may hack in the victim's devices, install spyware, and access their online accounts to track their online activities and conversations. Tracking devices. In some cases, gang stalkers may place GPS trackers on the victim's vehicle or their personal belongings to keep tabs on their location. With the proliferation of social media and online platforms, gang stalking have found new avenues to target their victims. Cyberbullying. Gang stalkers may create fake profiles or use anonymous accounts to send harassing messages, post defamatory content, or share private information about the victim online. Doxing. Gang stalkers may research and expose the victim's personal information, such as their home address, phone number, or workplace, putting the victim's safety at risk. Hacking. In extreme cases, gang stalkers may hack into the victim's email, social media accounts, or even personal devices to gain access to their private information and messages. See, and that's, I've always used the private mailbox. I never, ever tell anybody where I live. So, I don't have to worry about a lot of that stuff because I just don't give that kind of information out, period. But anybody that's too stupid and they go give that shit out, they're asking for it. You know what I mean? I'll be back in a minute.
Joe, were you able to get any tea or did you forget?
We got 5 gallons. They got white to this and he.
So we're gonna go out probably
He goes, I
tonight.
need to get more phone time. And so he went that way, I went that way. They didn't have the batteries there. Well, I bought what they had, and they wanted the right one. So this morning I went to Acme, and they had the right ones. Buy one, get second, 50% off. So I got like how many? About 20 of them.
Mm-hmm.
So now I've gotten to the point that I just send them out what I call a nasty gram. And I tell them, you want a piece of me? You just name a date, time, and location. I'll come armed and we'll settle it for once and for all, you lying, perjuring motherfucking son of a bitch. And I send them letters like that. Telling you, I do. They don't like it.
My virgin ears.
Wah, wah, wah. Spreading rumors. Gang stalkers often attempt to destroy the victim's reputation and social connections by spreading false information. False allegations. Gang stalkers may make baseless accusations against the victim, leading others to believe that the victim is involved in criminal activities or unethical behavior. Character assassination. They may circulate rumors that tarnish the victim's character, making it difficult for the victim to maintain relationships or employment. Cyber torture. UN starts investigation to ban cyber torture. UN, the fucking UN pigs. UN reaches out to targeted individuals, and worldwide advanced cyber technology is worldwide used to target individuals remotely through intimidation, harassment, and public shaming. Electromagnetic radiation, radar, and surveillance techniques are used to transfer sounds and thoughts into people's brains. UN is now underway to create an international legal framework for covering cyber technologies used to torture individuals, which was previously hard to prove because of invisibility, secrecy, and deception. Stay tuned for new reports. That's the task force for EU coalition. Cyber torture. November of 2017, I woke around 2:30 a.m. to the sound of beamed sonic weapon hum, 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 designed to create high technology nerve damage or a systematic brain aneurysm. The covert high-tech beam assault was backed by a painful attack using also extremely low-frequency microwave technology, which thousands of victims term the people cooker, directed energy weapon. It had been irradiating my body for quite some time before I woke with obvious intent to do further damage than had already been done by continued deterioration of tissue, organs, and joints. I looked out the window into the night sky for the source, and there were 3 drones with flashing lights hovering in a triangular pattern above my home in low orbit. By some estimates, there's about 300,000 U.S. citizens suffering similar attacks, marginalized for ongoing human experimentation by high advanced electromagnetic frequency weapons legalized for military personnel, for research activity, and law enforcement for crowd control on steroids, and freely testing on men, women, and children. Had I been placed on the U.S. reported targeted kill list for refusing to be silenced, revealing a heinous, unified, covert paradigm of refused military personnel, of fused military personnel, military technology domestically, and backed by the renewed modern-day COINTELPRO. Key were the attacks that were in the wee hours of the morning, more intense than during the day. One of the most corrupt police departments in the nation, now using drones, satellites, and portable microwave weapons set up in neighborhood locations, garages, etc., joined by military personnel and military technology by approval of the FBI Joint Resources Intelligence Center, Spy Center, were on a mission to at the very least shorten my lifespan and hope I and the information publicized would cease. So anyways, that's all government programs, and I don't know if they're still doing it or not. I have a lawsuit that they don't want to let proceed, and that's why I'm thinking about just taking it to the Supreme Court, and you know, but I'm going to send a nasty gram to these whores, these bought and paid for clerks masquerading as judges. Yeah, I'll send them a nasty gram. I like sending them nasty grams. Anyways, so when he came out of the Constitutional Convention in 1787, Mrs. Powell of Philadelphia asked Benjamin Franklin, "Well, doctor, what have we got, a republic or a monarchy?" With no hesitation whatever, Franklin responded, "A republic if you can keep it." My history of the Jesuits is not eloquently written. It is supported by unquestionable authorities and is very particular and very horrible. There, the Jesuit order's restoration in 1814 by Pope Pius VII is indeed a step towards darkness, cruelty, despotism, and death. I do not like the appearance of the Jesuits. If ever there was a body of men who merited eternal damnation on earth and in hell, it is the Society of Loyola. And that's from John Adams. So, you know, Jesuits have got to be behind all of that stuff. The Satanists, it's all satanic. Okay, the CIA, I mean, it's all satanic. And that's who's behind it all. There's three kinds of martial law: full martial law, declaration of martial law is issued, troops put on the street, used only during wartime, used in a foreign country when actually invaded by a foreign power or put down an armed rebellion. Martial law proper is the law of the armed forces, and martial law rule, which is the law of necessity and emergency, allows the domestic use of martial law powers used during the times of peace, and it can continue for centuries during a military occupation. And that's taken from Ex parte Milligan. So most people would say that a republic is government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Well, what does that mean? And what is not a republic? You know, that's a good question. It says under Article 4, Section 4, it says the United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government. So what is it? Well, we know it's not a military dictatorship. You know, we know what it's not for sure. It's not a military dictatorship. But in considering the question before us, it must be borne in mind that there is no law of nations standing between the people of the United States and their government, interfering with their relation to each other. The powers of the government and the rights of the citizens under it are positive practical regulations plainly written down. The people of the United States is delegated to it certain enumerated powers and forbidden it to exercise others. So that's the point, is they never ever talk about the people in any of their stuff. Okay? It's always this corporation, this state. And they're always going after a minor estate. And so when you start talking about the people and you start accusing them of crimes that they can do to people, like involuntary servitude and murder and things like that, they can't murder a corporation. They can't force a corporation into involuntary servitude. That's all bringing up issues they don't want to talk about. And that's essentially what I do, is I start filing dozens of criminal complaints against them, and make it so they don't want to talk to me. The purpose of a Republican form of government is to shield we the people from international law. If you think about it, I mean, that's essentially what this case is saying. There's no law of nations. Okay, law of nations is just another phrase for international law. This is Chisholm versus Georgia. I think it's like 1792. Doesn't say it there, but a state does not owe its origin to the government of the United States in the highest or any of its branches. It was in existence before the government of the United States. It derives its authority from the same pure and sacred source as itself, the voluntary and deliberate choice of the people. A state is altogether exempt from the jurisdiction of the courts of the United States or from any other exterior authority unless in the special instances where the general government has power derived from the Constitution itself. The question to be determined whether this state, so respectable and whose claim soars so high, is amenable to the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court of the United States. This question, important in itself, will depend on others more important still, and may perhaps be ultimately resolved into one no less radical than this: do the people of the United States form a nation? By that law, the several states of the government and governments spread over the globe are considered as forming a society, not a nation. So in 1792, there was no nations on the planet except maybe the United States. They were all corporations. That's what they're saying there. A society is a corporation, not a nation. Specifically says not a nation, and the caps is in the original. So, matter of fact, I've even seen court cases that talk about it. The idea of sovereign immunity is because you can't sue the government because we the people are the government. And it's like suing yourself. You can't do it. It's impossible. That's why the government's immune. You can't sue yourself. That's why they have to bring in the Commerce Clause. They have to use the minor estate. Up until 1913 or whenever that son of a bitch Wilson went and did what he did, there was no minor estate. Yeah.
In New Jersey, there was, starting in 1844.
Really?
Yep. Through my incarceration, I discovered that.
Wow. So what did they do in 1844? Was it a constitution that they passed?
A new constitution that said no warrant shall issue unless it particularly describes the place to be searched and the papers and things to be seized.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah, but how does that bring in a minor estate?
It commercialized crime. There were no crimes of people, even persons, in New Jersey starting in 1844.
Well, that's actually from the beginning.
It's a paper and a thing.
1815. The Supreme Court said that, let me find that. Let's see, where would that be? I think it was in the, Didn't I? Oh, I know where it'll be. Before I do that, I want to do this. That's in McCullough versus Maryland.
I'm saying in New Jersey is when.
Yeah, but Supreme Court trumps New Jersey.
I know that, but that's what gave the legislature, little by little, what they needed to tie everybody up and destroy common law, where it's no longer even an option.
Maybe.
An arrest warrant in 1844 named a paper and a thing.
Right.
Right.
They can't seize people.
Right. And I'm actually planning on bringing that up in the court case shortly as another means of bringing it into the light as far as why the warrant, any warrant, is unlawful constitutionally here in New Jersey, in the state of
There
New
we
Jersey.
go. All subjects over which the sovereign power of the state extends are objects of taxation, but those over which it does not extend are upon the soundest principles exempt from taxation. This proposition may be almost be pronounced self-evident. The sovereignty of the state extends to things which exist by its own authority or is introduced by its permission. But does it extend to those means which are employed by Congress to carry into execution powers conferred on that body by the people of the United States? We think it demonstrable that it does not. Those powers are not given by the people of a single state. They're given by the people of the United States to a government whose laws made in pursuance of the Constitution are declared to be supreme. Consequently, the people of a single state cannot confer a sovereignty which will extend over them. I mean, that is so powerful right there.
And that's why Charlie used to say, everything is voluntary.
That's why they have to use the Commerce Clause. Think about it. That's why they have no choice but to use the Commerce Clause. So when you start bringing up Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, you're creating a big problem for them. And you start bringing up like the respondent is we the people. You see what I'm saying? The respondent in error. That creates a big problem for them.
Now, has Glenn Fern succeeded with a we the people response, plaintiff, defendant at this point? Like, I know you've mentioned it, but have you seen that? It's only been the last few months you've been talking about that.
I know. I haven't used it.
Right.
I've been using it with other people,
Okay.
and but there's nothing conclusive yet.
I understand.
They don't want to talk to me.
Right.
So I kind of like it that way. I don't invite them to talk to me. You know what I mean? I don't go around and ask for, why don't you charge me with something so I can defend myself?
I understand.
You know what I mean?
Of course. But you do say pick your battles, so
Yeah.
it's why have? I mean, isn't the good defense a good offense? So if anybody's out there that has a situation,
That's why I help other people with it, for sure.
we the people.
Yeah, we the people. Yeah. Matter of fact, I can tell you that there's a friend of mine in Texas. His girlfriend they were wanting to get her to testify against him. And so they actually did a motion for an order to show cause, right? So the judge ordered her to show cause why she shouldn't be found in contempt. And so I prepared a motion for her, a response. And it said, basically, I don't have a problem showing up. You just provide your statutory and delegated authority that requires me to show up. I'll be there, no problem. and I brought this up, and I brought We the People, and there was a bunch of other stuff. And so then what the lawyers did is they screamed and yelled and jumped up and down. They didn't bring any statutory and delegated authority. They did all sorts of crap. And they gave the judge an order to sign, and he signed it. But there's no court seal on it. So it's a fraudulent order. And so now what I did is I helped her file criminal complaints. She filed dozens, because there's like 80 partners in this law firm. And so she filed like about 8 criminal complaints against each partner. And now she's going to file bar grievances against all these partners. And so there's a fake warrant out there. I can tell you that, but they're not looking her up. There's a capias is what there is. And they're not looking her up. I told her, I said, don't go down to the court, because you don't want to tempt fate. I said, if you want, I'll go down and file it for you. And which I did. I took a box of criminal complaints down to the clerk, and the clerks were real helpful, and we got a file, no problem. And but it said We the People, and there were criminal complaints against all these. It was a bunch of lawyers. It wasn't all of them. I mean, there's 80 lawyers, and there's 10 criminal complaints against each one, and then we're going to file bar grievances against each lawyer. I'll bet you they changed the name of their law firm after all this, because they won't be able to use that law firm anymore. I'll bet you. We'll see.
I wouldn't bet against you, Glenn. You definitely proved yourself to me.
So these lawyers, I mean, they hated those, because she was saying that the lawyers, they were just not talking to her. They were just, and I said, well, that's you can expect that. They are going to be pissed. But wah. And that's what they did. And the thing is, they just screamed and yelled and jumped up and down. Then they basically reiterated what she said. And she didn't turn it down. But so the judge, so now we're going to get the judge removed is what we're going to do. We filed the matter of fact, when I get back to Texas, I'll contact her. We gotta file a demand to disqualify the judge and get his ass removed. And
From the case or from being a judge?
Well, I don't know if he'll get removed as a judge. He might. But he'll certainly get removed from the case. Yeah. They'll have to appoint a new judge. The last time I did that was in my tax case, and they had to appoint a new judge, and I think the governor had to do it. And because there was a new judge all of a sudden. But what happened is I didn't hear another word out of anybody. You see what I'm saying?
They were speechless. Keep your mouth shut.
Yeah. So I never heard another word out of anybody. And they held their show trial, and then the court sent me a letter saying there's an order filed into this case, and if you want a copy, you're gonna have to send us $5. And I figured, oh, perfect. That means it has nothing to do with me. I don't really care about your order. You know what I mean? So we'll see. So now I'm going to go after him for costs.
And how much is that?
Well, I already told him I
Said
wanted.
800 cases, 800 filings.
I told him I wanted. Huh? Sorry?
You said 80 times.
Well, that was 80 partners in this law firm that this lady I was helping with.
And 10 complaints on each.
Yeah.
That's 800. 80 times 10.
Right. Filed right into the case. She went down there several times with boxes full of criminal complaints. And then she had to make copies and send them off to the FBI and the state police. I can show you the criminal complaints. I mean, it's bringing up the minor estate. It's bringing up all sorts of stuff, eh? It's felonies, involuntary servitude. They wanted her to pay them like $25,000 in costs, and so that's involuntary servitude. And if worse comes to worse, we'll just give them the form 1020. Tell me what to pay. I'll pay it. Tell me what to pay. You can tie them up in knots all day long. I mean, it's like.
You can. Yeah.
So, anyways, so what we're doing, it's involuntary servitude. Okay, forcing her to pay, work for them for nothing. That's violating her rights under the color of law. That's conspiracy. You know, I mean, it just goes on and on, right? Satanism, subjecting her to their satanic religious ceremony. And I told her that if it ever gets to the point that they're dragging her in there and they want her to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and say, well, I'm going to lie. You can tell them I'm going to lie. I'm not telling the truth. I'm going to lie. And you can tell them that I neither admit nor deny anything. I mean, it's the IRS. They do the same thing, right? And they want your books and records. So you take your books and records, or you get a box, and you put in something inside. Books and records, right? Put it in the box, close the box up, write on it, books and records, take it down there to the court, put it on the desk. I got them right here. And then just don't give them to them. And they'll never come and get them. You know, you don't have to give evidence against yourself. So you just got to understand those basic things, and there's not a damn thing they can do about it. No scream and yell and jump up and down. I neither admit nor deny anything. You know, that's all you have to do is I neither admit nor deny anything. She has, she's a single mom, and so she's worried about CPS, and she's already been attacked by him. And I said, well, you know, CPS has got lawyers. I think you know what to do with the lawyers. She's actually pretty smart. She got it pretty quick. She does all these criminal complaints. She's doing them by herself now. And the bar grievances, I sent her a bar grievance that she could use. So she's actually a pretty smart girl, and she's kind of just taking the ball and running with it. And that's good. You know, I don't have to deal with it. And she's, you know, breaking it off in their ass. Anyways, so the bottom line, though, is that we, the people, is fatal to them. Okay? They have to use the Commerce Clause. They have to use that minor estate. That's why we, the people, it's fatal. This is a Supreme Court case. They're never even going to try and dispute that. Two national governments exist, one to be maintained under the Constitution with all its restrictions, the other to be maintained by Congress outside and independently of that instrument. And that's Downs versus Bidwell. Again, you build a case against all the lawyers and the judges. Okay, judges have judicial councils they have to answer to, and the lawyers have the bar. And you file bar grievances. So you build a case, you file criminal complaints. In Texas, it's particularly useful because when you file a criminal complaint into you give a criminal complaint to any magistrate, that means any judge, okay, or even a mayor of a city, or any magistrate, okay? Mayors are magistrates, all judges are magistrates, any magistrate. And you give a criminal, and they have to issue a warrant, and it's not discretionary. That's absolutely mandatory. This is Texas. I can't tell you about other states. You're going to have to do your own research in your particular state. But I can tell you in Texas, it's a ministerial duty. It's not discretionary. They have no choice but to issue a warrant. And I've had judges removed because they failed to issue warrants. And then I go after them for hindering prosecution. That's a felony. And because they failed to issue warrants. And that kind of stuff. I mean, you can just break it off in their fucking ass. And, so that's what I do. But that's Texas, okay? That's not other states. I don't know about other states. I don't have time to research other states. I mean, for a donation, I might consider it, but, it's a lot of work. And so I need a donation comparable to the amount of work I do. Anyways, so it's probably a lot easier just to do your own research. You got to learn how to do it anyways. This is Article 1 of the Articles of Confederation. The style of this confederacy shall be the United States of America. And yet, look at what's in the passport. It's United States of America. That's also what's on Air Force One, too. And so that, two national governments. Passport defined. A passport is a written document given to a person or persons by commander of belligerent forces, authorizing him or them to travel unmolested within the district occupied by his troops. Passports are really useful because there's actually felonies associated with violating your passport. And in the U.S., federal felonies. And so that's why if you give a cop a passport, chances are he's going to say, have a nice day. And because it's a felony for them to mess with you when you gave him the passport. The passport says, leave this guy alone. Passports are issued by the State Department or a similar office in other countries to diplomatic agents or others entering or traveling in foreign countries, which are the same general character as those issued during war. The latter should, when practical, have the photograph of the bearer attached. And that's the Rules of Land Warfare, 1914 edition, Passport Safeguards and Cartels, Chapter 7, Section 4, Article 276, page 100. Don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow me on Steemit at Sovereignty International. Don't forget to like this video. On YouTube, don't forget to click the bell next to the subscribe button so you're notified when there's a new upload. On Steemit, don't forget to vote and make your comments. And there's my BitChute channel there too. This is the front page of my YouTube channel. The subscribe button's already been clicked, and that's why it's not red. When it hasn't been clicked, it'll be red. And the bell needs to be clicked. That's why the arrow is pointing at it. If the bell gets clicked, that notifies you of its notifications. Is what the bell is for. And if you click that, it'll look like it's vibrating. And this here is an image of a silver certificate. And again, this is the only place that I've seen this on land title documents. Okay, I've seen it on land title documents too. the United States of America. That's the only place I've seen the United States of America is on the Federal Reserve notes, on the paper money, fake money, and on the land title documents. That's the only place I've seen it. So at common law, only gold and silver are legal tender. If you want common law, it requires honest measures. If you want honest court, you got to have honest money. Okay, and that's what we talked about yesterday, is all of these fake courts is because of the fake money. You're never going to get any real justice. They're bought and paid for whores. You know, don't get me going. You're going to get me going here. There's a distinction between a debt discharged and one paid. When discharged, the debt still exists, though divested of its character as a legal obligation during the operation of the discharge. That's why my Form 1020 works so good, because all of these documents that they give you, these bills and stuff, they say, pay this, pay that. Okay, well, good, no problem. I'll pay. Tell me what to pay. I can't pay Federal Reserve notes because they don't pay anything. Now, this might pay something. $1 in silver payable to the bearer on demand. So you can get silver for that. And in that case, you would be paid. But it says here, it says this certificate is legal tender for all debts, public and private.
So maybe that is what.
So you tender it. You don't pay it. What?
No, repeat that. I'm sorry.
Well, it says this certificate is legal tender for all debts, public and private. So you tender it. You don't pay it. Only gold or silver coin can be paid. That's why the Form 1020 works so good. Because you tell them, your lawyer, only your lawyer can answer this Form 1020, and I want to know what to pay. And it's an offer to pay.
So in order to pay, you would have to turn the silver certificate into a silver dollar.
Yeah, then it's pay. Okay, moving on. This is taken from the Gold Reserve Act of 1934. As used in this act, the term United States means government of the United States, and currency of the United States means currency which is legal tender in the United States, and includes United States notes and Federal Reserve notes. So think about it. Currency of the United States is currency of the government of the United States, since the United States means the government of the United States, right? And is legal tender in the government of the United States. The forced loans of 1862 and 1863 in the form of legal tender notes were vital forces in the struggle for national supremacy. They formed a part of the public debt of the United States. Forced loans, that's the military script that was issued, the treasury notes, okay? But in the form of legal tender notes. So forced loans, legal tender notes, any legal tender notes are forced loans. That's what that is saying. Federal Reserve notes are commercial paper. Federal Reserve notes are a forced loan. Federal Reserve notes are IOUs, okay? Because they're not saying to pay anything. Doesn't say anywhere on there. It just says this note is legal tender. All commercial paper falls into two categories. It's either a promissory note or an IOU. I don't care. Stocks, bonds, whatever. And a requirement for a promissory note is it has to have a promise to pay. Like, for example, on the silver certificate. Let's go back there. It says $1 in silver is payable to the bearer on demand. So that's a promissory note. But when you tender it, you're not paying anything because there's no silver. When you go use that to go and exchange it for silver, they're paying you. you're tendering the fake money, and they're paying you in silver, real money. That's the only place that says pay on there. Says this certifies that there is in deposit in the Treasury of the United States of America $1.
Beautiful.
It's right there in front of everybody.
What year was that note?
1957.
For the silver certificate.
Yeah. Gold certificates and silver certificates were promissory notes, but they were only promissory notes when you went and took them to the Treasury and they gave you the gold or the silver.
It was a demand note.
Basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Payable upon demand.
Yeah, right. It said right on it, payable upon demand. You got to take it down there and you got to get it.
Maybe that's where it's I read in that I could go to a bank and present a piece of paper and they would give me the gold and silver, but maybe it's that, not the paper. Like if I took that there, maybe they have to still give you $1.
I don't know. I've taken Federal Reserve notes.
Right, but it would be interesting to test taking a silver certificate.
Yeah, but I don't know. I'd want to give it up.
It's for a test.
Yeah. See if they give you one. Yeah. Well, actually, that's not a bad deal because you get basically $30 for one.
Banks don't have silver or gold.
But those are hard to come by too.
Well, the question I would wonder is why
I've gone to banks and told them that it said under the Gold Reserve Act of 1934 that I should be able to get some gold or silver, and so I said, here, I want to trade this in for some gold or silver, and they said we don't have any, or they laughed at me, one of the two, and I sent it to the controller of the currency, and I did all sorts of things, and
Well, the way I read the information is if I went to the Federal Reserve, not any bank, that has to be the ones that are in the cities that are.
Well, actually, Jim Ketchum in here saying that says that in 1968 they stopped being redeemable.
Okay.
That's possible.
Well, that's helpful.
Anyways, this is General Orders 100, Article 37, okay, the Libra Code. And one thing to keep in mind is the Libra Code's never been repealed, okay? It's just been added to. Okay, so, I mean, you see all these field manuals nowadays. Okay, those are additions to the Libra Code. Or it's General Orders 100, although they call them field manuals now. The United States acknowledge and protect in hostile countries occupied by them religion and morality, strictly private property, the persons of the inhabitants, especially those of women, and the sacredness of domestic relations. Offenses to the contrary shall be rigorously punished. This rule does not interfere with the right of the victorious invader to tax the people or their property, to levy forced loans, to billet soldiers, or to appropriate property, especially houses, lands, boats, or ships, and churches for temporary and military uses. I don't know why they'd want to billet soldiers, except maybe in a hotel. But you wouldn't want to be putting them in somebody's house. They'd just piss them off. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's what the King of England was doing.
I know.
One of the causes.
They wanted to piss people off, though.
Tracking their mud.
Yeah. Anyways, you don't want people to know that they're under a military occupation thing.
Right.
I don't know if you remember that Sound of Music. Remember the Sound of Music with Julie Andrews?
Yeah.
Remember when they were leaving? They were in Austria, and they went to play that musical, and then they were going to leave the country, and they were going to go over the mountains into Switzerland, right? And this German officer, I think it speaks volumes, because the German officer said, that's okay, we'll let them sing. We want everybody to think that everything is normal.
Mhm.
They don't want people to know they're under martial law, because people will revolt against that.
One of your online chat people, this guy here, said that he in New Jersey tried to form a militia. They raided his house.
I saw that.
But remember when you said what Joe was thinking of doing in Texas, as far as ordering the governor to make him
Right.
the governor
He was thinking about doing that in New York.
make the governor do what?
He was in support of the militia. The governors have to support the militia.
So what would the
So-
man? So,
so-
rather than forming his own militia, which
So
is
what I
what's-
would
what sovereigns try to think they have
I
to
would
do.
probably try and get the governor to you can wait till they attack you, or you can attack them. Probably the best thing to do is to attack them first. And so what I would do is I'm just trying to think of what kind of action to bring, and basically that you have the right to keep and bear arms in support of the militia. You could actually I don't know. I had to think about it. I know Joe was talking about it.
Well, your solution was something like telling the governor, "I'm ready to be in your militia."
Well, they do have but it's not National Guard, and so the militia doesn't even have a uniform. Remember, in colonial days, they didn't have a uniform. They were just average people. You know what I mean?
That's why they were called regulars.
That's right.
They were dressed regular.
Right. Well, yeah. And so
That's when I
you
wrote-
could do a mandamus to have the courts order them to allow you to have your arms in support of the militia. Something like that, maybe. You know what I mean? And then appeal. That would be one way. I have to think about it, but I saw that, and anyways,
The sheriff can appoint deputies, but can he form a militia?
no, it's not the sheriff. Okay,
I mean,
the
can
sheriff
appoint
has
deputies.
the
to
sheriff
fight
has
enemies.
the sheriff has a posse. Okay, he can have a posse, and in fact, there was an example of one sheriff recently with this. What state was that in? I think that was Oregon. There was when that COVID stuff went down. There was a church that wanted to meet, and so they invited the sheriff to come down and told them their concern. They wanted to have their church meetings, and so the sheriff deputized everybody.
So they met as an assembly, or met as
So
a
they met
militia?
they met their church, but they couldn't do nothing about it because they're all deputy sheriffs.
Good.
Nobody could do anything about it. You see what I'm saying?
So why can't they do something to someone that wants to be in a militia?
Well,
That's
it doesn't
a
come from the
constitutional
sheriff.
right- That's a constitutional right.
I agree 100%. It doesn't come from the sheriff though.
No,
The sheriffs are all military sheriffs. You can contact the sheriff. What I would do is I'd contact the sheriff and tell him, look, I want to set up a militia. I want to support you in what you do and be available in the case of emergency or something like that.
and he could be in the
And
militia.
and I want you to help me or something like this. You see what I'm saying? I want to support you. I'm not interested in doing anything but do my duty to
Protect our country.
to protect our country.
Well,
That's right.
It's actually to protect the free state. The
That's right.
Second Amendment is amazing when you read it
Right.
properly.
I agree.
As far as the militia.
Yeah. This is Chisholm versus Georgia, 1792 again. In despotic governments, the government has usurped in a similar manner both upon the state and the people. Hence, all arbitrary doctrines and pretensions concerning the supreme, absolute, and uncontrollable power of government. In each, man is degraded from the prime rank which he ought to hold in human affairs. In the latter, the state as well as the man is degraded. Of both degradations, striking instances occur in history, in politics, and in common life. It's just kind of interesting.
So can we submit an olive branch petition as a militia to the administration that's corrupt?
I would once one person did it and was successful, I don't think anybody else would have any trouble. You see what I'm saying? All you have to do is tell them, look,
I'm willing to do it first.
I'm the militia. You know what I mean?
Right. And they're going to say no, and that's why that's where the Supreme Court has to say you must.
There you go.
To them.
Something, if necessary, take it to the Supreme Court.
Yep.
But I'm just trying to think if it would be a mandamus, ask the courts to order them to because they have duties to the militia. In other words, they're supposed to
aren't they supposed to issue ammunition?
Well, they're supposed to provide accoutrements. You're supposed to be allowed to have arms, but there's also they're supposed to support the militia. They're supposed to provide, a location for training, right. and do a drill. What do they call it? A muster. You got to be able to do your muster, and so we need a place to do our muster.
Right. So Joe is going to ask the governor to provide all of that to him.
Right.
Which the governor then, as the executive officer, is obliged.
That's right.
That was the process of thinking.
That's
it's not Joe saying I'm forming my own militia.
That's right. The governor has to provide it. Right. And it used to be back in the 60s when Johnson came into power. Johnson put a stop to it. I heard. I don't know. I wasn't here then. I mean, that was like when I was about 5 years old. But what I heard is that prior to that the government issued ammo to anybody that wanted it in support of the militia. Ammunition.
Prior to Johnson.
Yeah. Johnson put a stop to it. But I do remember, I was here when this happened. George Bush Sr. put a stop to, they used to issue 303s. You used to be able to go and get a 303 from the government in support of the militia. And so, and they stopped doing that under Bush Sr.
They're closing off every avenue of freedom they can.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, but it's kind of interesting, in spite of all of that there's more arms. I was looking at something recently, and it said there's 400 million arms in the hands of the American people. And if you combine all of the countries on the planet, their military, everything, they have about 160 million arms.
We got triple.
So come on down, let's party.
We got triple.
Yeah,
got triple of you all.
Most of Europe has been disarmed.
Yeah. Yep. Anyways. Banknotes constitute a large and convenient part of the currency of our country, and by common consent, serve a great extent all the purposes of coin. In themselves, they are not money, for they are not legal tender, and yet they are good tender, unless specifically objected to as being notes merely and not money. So, and this is the thing that I want to stress, is that as long as they can presume that you use lawful money, then you'll have lawful courts. Okay? It's all in the presumptions. All these courts are military courts. Really, the real solution is, and I think I get to that by the end of this presentation. I got a long ways to go. We might be doing this afternoon. Yeah, we will be. Anyways, banknotes, let's keep reading this here. They subserve the purposes of money in the ordinary business of life by the mutual consent express or implied of the parties to a contract, and not by the binding force of any common usage, for the party to whom they may be tendered has an undoubted right to refuse accepting them as money. Yes.
There was a company in Nevada insisted on paying their people in gold, and the state sued them to stop it.
Actually, the IRS did.
Or whoever,
yeah.
Somebody did. And the company won.
That's right. Yeah.
So they wanted to pay in lawful money. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, that's actually, I'm not sure what the name of that case is, but I heard it was the IRS that attacked them, and they were paying in gold or silver coin. Cryptocurrency is not a forced loan. Anything can be used as a medium of exchange as long as we agree to it. It's called barter. And that's why, again, it goes back to the banknotes. If you want to accept the banknote, you're welcome to accept it, but you don't have to. And what they did with the Federal Reserve notes is they forced it on everybody, basically. See what I'm saying? Forced loans.
So if someone went in and bought a gallon of milk, as an example, and the clerk demanded payment. Now I know that it's not really. I mean, what are our options as far as demanding that they?
Well, they're going to take whatever they're going to take. If you want the milk, you got to give them something that they'll accept. And so if they'll take the fake money, I'd rather give them the fake money than give them real money. You know what I mean? I'd be glad to give you that. And a lot of times, because they're corporations, that's what they really want anyways. But if they insist on having real money for their milk, then you're going to have to give it to them. You know what I mean? They don't have to. A lot of them are corporations, and so because they're corporations, then they got to go by the legal tender thing. You see what I'm saying? But not every store is a corporation. It could be a mom and pop place, and then you gotta pay them whatever they want. I'll be back in a sec.
So I'm getting FRN Social Security. Not a lot. My ex is getting 2/3. So if I tell them, write to them, once I get the money, the
current
funds, I'm refusing this because I want real gold or silver money. What will they do? What would they do? See, he says you can refuse, right? He said you can refuse the promissory note. You can refuse it. So what if all of us patriots refuse the Social Security Administration's FRMs and say we want silver?
I don't know.
How many hundreds of millions of people are retired here? You know what I'm saying? How many? Probably over 50 million.
The problem is that they could just say, okay, fine, you don't accept it, you don't accept it. We don't have to.
Yeah, but then you can mandamus to the Supreme Court. Make them pay.
There you go.
Make them pay.
Okay.
See? You can get it done a couple weeks. You can have it done. Well, you give them 30 days to do it, and then no, go shove it. Then you go to the Supreme Court. Make them.
That's something we could do then when you get back from your trip.
Ooh.
You know how to do it already.
Even people on SSI, and you don't have to be retired. People on SSI getting, disability and stuff. They're getting FRMs. They can refuse and say, "I want no solar."
Yeah,
That would probably be 100.
CSPOA is a really good organization, and I would highly recommend. That they're definitely good organization. What's that?
We didn't want to interrupt your. I read. I saw.
We just hit a goal.
You did it.
I think we did.
Well, no, we can talk about it later.
Yeah,
on.
whatever.
But in 1997, the British Parliament passed an act that they administer Social Security for the United States of America.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Have you read it? Seen it?
I've, whatever. I don't know.
No, it's just a fact that's out there. That's all.
I've known about that.
Right. So it just goes to the system of what they have the Great Britain has never wanted to give up control of the colonies. They're always trying to come back.
Yeah, I know.
And attach their British subjects.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. That's why, well, don't get me going. I think that, when push comes to shove, there should be no more peace treaties with them. They're not interested in peace. They're just going to regroup. And so we should just all out war and exterminate them off the face of the planet and turn them into a smoking hole. Like Buckingham Palace, the Vatican, just turn it all into a smoking hole. And just exterminate them off they're not interested in peace. Okay. All they're going to do is they're going to regroup so they can attack us again when we're not watching.
Right. But does the Vatican and the Great Britain government own and control Washington, D.C.?
Of course they do.
Okay, so what arms are we using to do what you just said? It's not reasonable.
Well, actually, I think that Congress is there, but I don't think the White House is occupied. And I think they're looking at a new capital territory, possibly in Colorado or in maybe Missouri. I've heard, or Texas. I've heard three different options that they're considering. And I can tell you that there's a gold depository in Texas. They went and it's really interesting because if you want to send money, you go online and you want to put some money in that gold depository, you cannot go there. You have to mail it there. and so that tells me that there's something more there that's really high security and they don't want anybody coming there. You know what I mean? I mean, it's way higher security than what you would expect, Maybe it's because they say that we went and seized 650 airplane loads of gold from the Vatican after they went and interfered with our election. Okay, because there is evidence the Vatican interfered in our election. And so they say that we went and there's actually, I've heard stories from the Italian police saying that there was U.S. troops in the Vatican for a period of time and that kind of stuff, which suggests that might have actually happened. Right. And so maybe that's why that place is like locked down big time because it's full.
Such a large store of value.
Right. Yeah. And I've heard that Fort Knox is full and there's like about 3 other places that are full. And that might be one of them. I don't know. Anyways, it's rumors, you just don't know. But you hear about it from good sources. Like Jim Willey talked about it, 650 airplane loads. And Juan even talked about it. And so there's good sources that are talking about this stuff.
That sounds like more gold than there is. I mean, there's only supposed to be a certain amount of Olympic-sized pools full of gold in the
Well,
world.
there's a hell of a pile of gold.
What?
There's a hell of a pile of gold. They say that there's actually the amount of gold and the amount of silver is about equal. And silver is used industrially for a lot of things. Gold isn't used as much. And but the amount that's produced every year is about the same. And you listen to Bix Weir, and he talks about it. They say that the Grand Canyon's full of gold.
That's cool.
Did you see that movie? Did you see that movie? It's an old Western movie, McKenna's Gold.
Yeah, I think back 30, 50 years ago, probably.
Yeah, right.
Whatever,
Yeah,
40 years
and
ago.
they ride off into the sunset with the girl. He rides off into the sunset with the girl, and the horse, and the saddlebags are full of gold. Eh?
I have to watch it again.
And he's riding off past in the Grand Canyon, past this cliff that's solid gold. They say the Grand Canyon's full of gold. There's all sorts of. That's why they turned it into a national park, and you can't go there because they don't want anybody going there and seeing it. They say it's full of gold. They said that Roosevelt did that.
How about when you raft down it? The river. Can't you get out?
They don't let you go past that area. The area where the gold is. Yeah, they don't.
Is that like where people are falling off because they're trying to get down there?
I don't know. I have no idea. But I've heard that they found there's caves with Egyptian ruins in them. All sorts of stuff. Hieroglyph. Egyptian
How are they
hieroglyphs.
keeping the people from going in there?
They turn it into a national park, and
Yeah,
they
but
won't.
You can't go in.
They have security all
National
over the
Park
place.
Or should be.
It's like the whole Grand Canyon's a national park. That's true, but I think they turned it into a military base or something.
Well, that's
You
what I'm
cannot
saying.
you cannot go in there.
National Park, they can't keep you out. But a base, yeah.
Yeah, I think they got a military base or something in there. But you can't go in there. You listen to some of Bix Weir's stuff. He talks about that. He's got a lot of stuff on that, a lot of information on that, and that's why he says that there's about as much gold as there is silver. And there's a shitload of silver. But the problem is the silver is used industrially in all sorts of things. Like the keyboard. Behind this keyboard, behind these keys is.
You know how much silver is in a torpedo?
Oh, I know. 25 kilos.
One torpedo.
One torpedo, I know.
Yes.
Any missile has 25 kilos of silver.
They're keeping the price down because otherwise they go broke trying to buy all this.
It's in the
stuff.
guidance system. They use it for the guidance system.
The military is like,
Every missile has 25 kilos and it gets vaporized.
they couldn't afford it at 120 an ounce.
I know.
If it was 120, they couldn't afford it.
Have you seen those cruise missile guidance system? It's the ball. You ever seen those balls?
Mhm.
Those things are solid silver. I worked at General Dynamics in San Diego. It was on the MD-11 program. We were building the MD-11 fuselages, and it's a place where you had to have a bicycle to get around. This huge facility, and it was a couple of the buildings were used. They were making those guidance balls for the cruise missiles, and it was a ball. It's about this big, and it's solid silver.
A couple 100 pounds at least.
Well, I'm guessing it's I don't know
Like
what
a
20.
basketball size?
It was about the size of a basketball. Yeah, I don't know how
I
big.
would say a couple 100 pounds. That silver's pretty heavy.
Yeah, well, solid silver.
Or-
I've got kilos of silver. I bought kilos. I mean, they're not that expensive. It's 2.3 pounds, and a troy pound is 12 ounces. So 12 troy ounces times 2 is 24, and then another 4, right? So that's 28 ounces. And so it's just a bar that's about the size of my cell phone. and that's a kilo.
Almost 2 pounds.
It'll say right on it, kilo. And I've got one guy gave me 100-ounce bar of silver for helping him, and so that was nice.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, no shit.
You need any more help?
So, anyways, you know, the thing is that they use a lot of, there's 25 kilos of silver gets vaporized in every rocket, every missile.
Why is silver needed for those? Can't they use copper or anything else? I mean, I don't
know.
You know?
I know that, I don't know. I can tell you that silver has unique electrical characteristics that nothing else has.
Even
I can tell you
copper
that. Huh?
Copper has similar, but it's
There's
a lot cheaper.
behind this keyboard, there's a filament of silver behind every key. There's a plastic behind these keys is a plastic sheet, and you'll see these silver wires going through the plastic sheet. Silver has unique electrical characteristics. Okay, so let's keep moving here. So cryptocurrency is not a forced loan. Anything can be used. I already covered that. But in fact, and in law, such statutes are intended to be applied to those who are here as residents in this state under the Interstate Commerce Clause of the Federal Constitution under the so-called 14th Amendment. And that's U.S. versus United Mine Workers. That's actually a summary, I believe. It doesn't look like a direct quote. It looks like a summary. Banks are international law. Military dictatorship is international law. Uniform Commercial Code is international law. All codes, rules, and regulations are international law. And I already quoted this forced loans of 1863, 1862. During the Civil War, they paid government employees with treasury notes. Government employees were forced to loan the government money. When government employees were paid treasury notes or bank notes, it's a forced loan. Both are government debts. Forced loans is probably the single most important thing for a military dictatorship. It makes it so the courts presume that you do not pay a debt. It makes everybody into paupers. Paupers have no rights except that what they allow you to have. These bankster wars are only because we, the people, are failing to form our militias. The U.S. Supreme Court in Ex parte Milligan said that the military courts can only operate because we, the people, are failing to convene our common law courts. When we, the people, convene our common law courts, by the way, I sent you that case there, Nelson.
I got it.
When we convene our common law courts, then the military courts are supposed to step aside. When we, the people, right. We, the people, have abdicated our responsibility to form our militias and convene our common law courts, and the prisons are populated because of it. That's true. So, what you want is you want the presumption that gold or silver coin is in general circulation. And with the military courts, then you'll have decent justice. But the military courts work on presumptions. As long as the military courts can presume lawful money is used, you'll have decent justice. The real solution is to have our own common law courts. And screw their military courts, really. We don't need their military courts. Money, according to Norm Franz, gold is the money of kings, silver is the money of gentlemen, barter is the money of peasants, debt is the money of slaves. Well said. Federal Reserve was set up under the insurance laws of the United States. Federal Reserve notes are worthless insurance script. Anything purchased with worthless insurance script is the property of the issuer of the script. Taxes are the fee for using the private money system. The single most important requirement for a Republican form of government is lawful money. So they say we're guaranteed a Republican form of government, and yet we don't have one because we don't have lawful money. Actually, we do. It's right here. They have to provide it. But we have a bunch of pirates. This here is lawful money. It says $1.
So what would happen if we went into a corporation to buy a loaf of bread using lawful money?
Well, they might be having trouble making change for you. And they might not want the lawful money.
Can they accept it?
Well, if I was there, I'd certainly accept it. I'd make change. I'd give you a lousy exchange rate, but I'd make change because I'd want it. I'd put it in my pocket and put the fake money back in the till. You know what I mean? You see what I'm saying?
But they're oh, you know what? It says no state. That's why, that's the difference. Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1 says no state.
Yeah, right.
It has nothing to do with
Private businesses.
private businesses. That's why I got the free license, because the state demanded
Right,
the state was demanding I pay a debt.
right. All government benefits paid to anyone with a Social Security number in the form of Federal Reserve notes, which are forced loans. This is Title V, United States Code, Section 552 AA 13. The term federal personnel means officers and employees of the government of the United States, members of the uniformed services, including members of the reserve components, individuals entitled to receive immediate or deferred retirement benefits under any retirement program of the government of the United States. So that means anybody with a Social Security number is federal personnel.
Is the body federal personnel, or is the name the federal personnel?
Well, it's really what it is, that minor estate.
Right. So the minor estate is actually the federal personnel.
Right.
It's just the body's attached to it.
Yeah, and it puts it under the Commerce Clause. Well, you're volunteering. Okay, when you go in there and stand there and you tell them that you want some of their government benefits, then you said, I want to be surety. You see what I'm saying? That's essentially what's going on.
Why, if I've applied for Social Security because of what I paid, unknowingly paid in with my labor,
Right.
am I just not collecting on an insurance contract? Does that put me at a disadvantage?
You saw what that, what's his name? Wilson's.
Colonel Mendelhouse?
There you go. Edward Mandel House. You saw what he said.
Right.
So you're when because it's the fake money that you're getting. If you were getting lawful money, it'd be different. But if you're getting fake money, then you're in the fake system.
True, but I have the option to turn it into lawful money.
That's true. And you know, some people have to get it because maybe they've been out of work or don't have two nickels to rub together or whatever. And so I don't fault anybody for getting it, but you just got to realize it's separate. Okay, you just got to treat everything separate. Okay, the courts treat it all separately. And it's all about the evidence you give against yourself. So you don't bring that up. You see what I'm saying? Is what I would do. Just like having the Mexican driver's license. I mean, it's all in what you give against yourself. So when I get stopped by the cops, I don't give them the Arizona driver's license. I give them the Mexican one.
Has that happened yet?
No, I haven't. No.
Okay.
So it really comes down to the evidence you give against yourself. You don't tell them. You don't bring it up. They're going to treat every issue separately. Lawful money is not Federal Reserve notes. Lawful money is not bank notes. Lawful money is not forced loans. Lawful money is not discharged debts. Lawful money is not international law. If we do get hyperinflation, the cities will be the absolute worst place to be because the lockdowns, farmers are destroying milk and other crops because restaurants are closed. There have been major crop failures in the last 3 years in a row. It's a recipe for food prices to go up a lot. They're already talking about shortages, famine even, here in America. Gold and silver can be counterfeited, is not infinitely divisible. There's no authenticity verification unless you do it. There's ways you can verify it, but it's difficult. Storage can be lost or stolen. Portable, yes and no. Recognized, not necessarily accepted. Taxes, yes or no. Anonymity, yes. So that's a comparison of gold or silver. Federal Reserve notes can be counterfeited, is not infinitely divisible, no authenticity verification. Storage, it can be stolen or lost. Portable, yes. Recognized everywhere. Taxes, yes. Anonymity, maybe. Some banks require ID for any cash deposit. Transactions over certain limits precipitate reporting requirements. Cryptocurrencies cannot be counterfeited, is infinitely divisible. Authenticity verification completed when used, cannot be stolen from a wallet, but can be lost. Portable, yes, completely. Recognized, growing. Taxes, no. Anonymity, yes, some more than others.
I
Now,
know people that lost their wallet got hacked.
I know it's a lot of people just don't. Yeah, and the taxes, no, but that's qualified because you're supposed to. If you file a tax return and you have a capital gain in cryptocurrencies, you're supposed to report the capital gain. And well, I don't file a tax return, so I don't have to worry about it. But so, and the IRS doesn't want to talk to me because I sued them and took them to the Supreme Court twice. So it's like a mutual thing. Eh? They don't want to talk to me. I don't want to talk to them. They don't ask. I don't tell. Blockchain is a distributed ledger. It's got a public key and a private key. The public key is in the blockchain. The blockchain is a public key and an amount. And that's all it is. And you can actually go online and see the blockchain. Yeah. Let's see. The most disturbing part about all this is that so many children have died being considered as property with no way of knowing about the system or how to defend themselves. You got that right. Bitcoin SV is the only one that can be infinitely divided and has microtransaction and scales to millions per second. I was unaware of that. I thought that they can all be divided to the 8th decimal place, but even Ethereum, you know, when the prices go up, they just extend the number of decimal places. So it can still be, they'll just extend the number of decimal places that you can buy or sell. So I still think it can be infinitely divided. They all theoretically can, at least. Okay, so do we want to stop for lunch?
What time is it?
It's 12:30 right now. We could come back at 2 o'clock.
You're the boss.
Yeah.
Why don't we stop for lunch? We'll start on this slide.